Ready to start the show, Joe?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do a little intro here, and we'll start the show.
Cool.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome to the next edition of Faith and Freedom, a show where we look at current events and how they affect the Christian faith and the American freedoms that so many have paid the ultimate price to give us. Thank you for joining us, and let's get right into the program today.
There's the music, Joe. Always reminds us of one thing.
That's right. I like the new intro, too. That's good stuff.
Actually, I had that for a while, just never used it.
Perfect.
Right?
I like it. I like it.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name's Bob. To my left, your right is Joe, and this is Faith and Freedom. And we are actually live. Joe, what are we live on?
Sorry, we're live on Facebook. It's on my account right now. I don't know how to make it go live any other way right now, and we'll work it out where we can get it live on maybe YouTube and all of that coming up soon. But yeah, if you're watching on Facebook and you have questions about things that we're talking about, put it in the comments and we'll see if we could address it. I think that'd be fun interaction.
I'm just doing a little audio work right here. Okay, we're back. Well, Joe, it's been a while since we've been on, and let me move over a little bit here.
Summer's been busy.
Closer. Summer has been busy. Your family's okay?
We're doing well.
Good. And it's been a very busy summer for all of us here in the United States of America because we've got some major problems, and doesn't seem like they're going to go away any day soon.
No, it's surprising how quickly they all came on, I think.
It really is. And, we've got topics. We got vaccination and mandates. We got southern border. We've got healthcare workers losing their job, the most important people day in and day out that help us through our medical issues, and they're getting fired both by Joe Biden's mandates and
state
mandates from our governor, Kathy Hochul, who turns out to be, if possible, worse than the guy that got ousted.
Did you see that coming? Her being worse?
I did not see that coming. I actually thought we might have a shot.
Have you seen the meme where it's something happens and it's like, well, that can't be any better, and somebody says, "Hold my beer," and then they show how to do it. Like, Kathy Hochul is like, hold my beer. I'll show you how to be liberal.
It's incredible. I just learned this morning Letitia James, our AG, is running for governor in New York State. I don't know if there could be anybody worse than Cuomo and Hochul. Maybe it's her. I don't know.
I think that's a little scandalous, too. Like, she was instrumental in taking him down, and now all of a sudden she wants to be governor too. That's very
there does seem to be some conflict of interest there,
maybe.
Right? Just a little bit. But what we want to try to do today, everybody that's listening live, is we do want to incorporate the Christian faith into the things that are taking place.
Yeah.
And what does the Bible tell us in some of these instances? How do we feel as born-again Christians? And so we just kind of want to intertwine all of that together, and not in any necessary order of importance. I did start out with topics talking about the southern border and the fact that it's wide open, and millions of people are coming in, undocumented. We don't know exactly who they are. Most, not by their own fault, of course, but most are not vaccinated. Mm-hmm. Many probably have COVID-19 coming in. Joe Biden now he's throwing a proposal out there to see if it sticks on the wall. He wants to give every illegal family that comes in $450,000, just to help make up this breakup of the family. $500,000. And I think Dan Crenshaw tried to put this in perspective, and he said, let me give you an example. If a service man or woman dies, I think it's in action. If they get killed in action fighting for this country, the surviving spouse gets a one-time $400,000 payment. So we're actually going to give if Joe Biden had his way, and if the Democratic Party had their way, they would give more money to an illegal alien in this country than a man or a woman who serves this nation, is loyal to this nation, takes an oath to abide by the Constitution, and dies fighting for the freedoms of this nation. They will get less than an illegal family coming into the country. It is...
I see no way how that flies. There's no way that this flies.
I don't see how it flies either, but there's a lot of stuff
That's true.
Haven't been able to figure out how any of this stuff flies. So, Joe, when we look at the southern border, and I'm constantly reminded by a statement that Michael Savage made probably 10 or 15 years ago, and he said, a nation is defined by its borders, its language, and its culture.
Sure.
And in the United States of America, we have spent many years pushing Spanish as not quite an equal language to English. It's still press number 2 for Spanish, right? But it's right up there. And once you lose that, according to Michael Savage, that's one step in actually losing your nation. The culture is so very, very important in the nation. And, we're losing that as well. You look at the state of California when Cinco de Mayo comes. Actually, I think it was 2 years ago, some kids came in on Cinco de Mayo. Some kids came into school in California with the American flag on their T-shirts. They were told to go home.
Yeah.
So, we are, of course, slowly losing our culture as well. Probably a planned thing by the left. And finally, borders. And so we have a relatively, I'm guessing, strong border on the north with Canada. We virtually have no border on the south other than really what Texas and New Mexico and other states are doing to try and protect.
But they're doing it at a state level.
They're doing it at a state level. Those states are putting forth the money to hire the people and see that the criminals are indeed imprisoned or returned, maybe not back to their homeland, but at least thrown out of this nation. How do we look at this from a Christian perspective when we are to love our neighbors and, be sensitive to the weak? How do we react to this?
I mean, I feel like my initial thought, brings me to Romans, where Paul talks about how we're supposed to abide by, the laws of the government that's ahead of us, in charge. The Bible says that God, put those leaders in their position, and if it's not in conflict with the direct Word of God, then that's what we abide by. Well, we have laws. Yep. Right? We're a country that has laws, and I feel that it's appropriate to follow those laws. So when you have people coming over from another country to try to get a better life, or I would like to see them do it in a way that's legal, right? That follows the laws of our land. That doesn't mean that somebody who's coming over in an illegal manner is any less of a person. It doesn't mean that they're any less valuable in the eyes of God. It doesn't mean that they don't need to hear the gospel or need Jesus, any more or less than anybody else, because everybody's on that same level. And I don't think that we need to, equate necessarily the two things together. If you're coming over illegal because I'm a Christian, it doesn't mean that I have to just say, oh, you want, I have to let you in.
Right.
Right. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to get a point?
Yeah. I mean, I think, your point is well taken that God has actually sanctioned all governments.
Yeah.
Nobody's in power without his okay. And we have laws. And frankly, I think one of the issues in the southern border is that the president, through executive order and other things, just turning a blind eye or telling people don't do this or that, he's not obeying the laws of this country. I believe that Biden is a lawbreaker on our southern border, and as such, he should be held accountable and change it. This leads me to the same argument that I've used for years with regard to the Second Amendment, and that's this, that the Second Amendment is a right given to us through our Constitution, but it's essentially an inalienable right in that the rights really come from God,
Right.
not from the state. And
Sure.
the Second Amendment is essentially the right to be able to defend and protect
Defend
yourself
yourself,
and
sure.
your family. And I've always said, look, if you don't like that amendment, change it. In this country, change it. You can, just like we did with alcohol, we prohibited it for a while, and it turned out to be worse as it was prohibited, and then we repealed it with another amendment. But my thing is that if you don't like the policies of the southern border, then change them
Change the
legally,
policy. Sure.
right?
Yeah, of
Take
course.
it before Congress. Present bills and debate those bills and pass them, if you can, in the House of Representatives and the Senate, and put it on the president's desk for his signature, and then nobody gets to say anything because it's the law.
It does feel like we don't even talk about what laws are being passed these days. I feel like everything's done by reconciliation, and everything is done
Executive order.
It's all very, it's not debated anymore, hotly contested. It's not a give and take. It's just, I'm the president now. I'm going to do it by executive order. This party is in charge of Congress right now, so we're just going to get it done through, loopholes like reconciliation or something, and we're going to attach it to a budget, and it's going to be done like that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't leave any permanent solution. It just kind of leaves this like ebb and flow and how the law is handled at the border every 4 years.
Right, because the new president comes in. If he's from a different party, he just cancels the previous executive orders and creates his new ones. When it's someone we agree with, we love it. When it's someone we disagree with, like the guy that's in power right now, we hate it.
Do you remember when Biden's first day? It was right after the inauguration. He sat right in the Oval Office. He had the stack of executive orders that he was canceling and signing into place hours after his inauguration.
One of the first ones was the Keystone Pipeline.
Do you remember what he said when he was signing it?
No.
No. Which one am I signing? What is this?
No kidding.
Do you remember that?
No. Is that what he said? Well,
what am I signing?
We've got a president who is clearly got some issues with his brain, whether it's dementia, Alzheimer's, or whatever it is. We know he's not all there.
You've always said that about Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's true. And there isn't a reasonable person on the planet that doesn't have empathy for the elderly that is suffering through mental disease, dementia, Alzheimer's, and the like. We all feel for them. Some of us have had those types of people in our families, and it's horrible when they go through this. And so there is empathy for our president in that regard, I believe, by many Americans, Democrats, Republicans, left, right, alike, and I think that's a good thing. But the Democrats are using this mental infirmity that our president has to their power because they get to tell him what to do and what to say, and that becomes bad for a majority of the country. And I think what you said, Joe, is so true in that what it ultimately leads to is that, listen, the things that Biden and his administration are doing right now have about a 36 or a 37% approval rate. That means 2 out of 3 Americans. That means some Democrats have to be in this disapproval area, right? Disapprove of what he's doing. And yet they continue to move forward with these policies. They don't care.
No, I don't think they care. I think that they feel that time is against them right now. They've got another maybe year and a couple months to get everything that they can get pushed through because things are going to change.
Do you think he's going to do the State of the Union address?
I don't know. I don't think he will.
I read an opinion about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they said there's no way he will be doing it. Kamala Harris will be president by that time. And now there's rumblings that she's starting, I would call it a coup, but she's starting to put things, she's distanced herself.
Yes.
So in August, she made something like 39 or 30 appearances with him, and in September and October, one each month. So she's not hanging out with him, and there's many people that think this is a step in the process. The Democrats control both houses of Congress, and so to apply the 25th Amendment to the Constitution would be easy for them to do, and the vice president's got to sign on with it.
Cabinet,
I don't remember
right?
if all of the secretaries need to, but a majority of them probably.
I think it needs to be a majority, or
all of them?
All of them.
Unanimous, which, is yet to be seen if that would take place. But we've got some issues in this country.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be Vice President Harris at that time, trying to take over. I just don't think that he has the ability to stand up in front of, Congress and deliver a 2-hour speech.
I don't think he can do it.
I just don't think he could do that.
He is going to mumble and stumble through that because, could they drug him up? Yeah, they could drug him up. I think he's been drugged up before. Personal opinion.
He did surprise me on the debate stage a couple times.
He did.
About how, I don't think that all of his answers were the most impressive answers, but I thought that he was going to be drooling by the end of the debate, and
so
he wasn't.
Nope.
So
he was not only coherent, but he was pretty
kind of feisty.
He was kind of feisty.
Yeah.
And that surprised me a little bit. My guess, and that's all it is that there were some drugs in his body that
You think it was ivermectin? Probably not.
Probably not.
No, probably not.
Probably not. Boy, that's a topic we want to get into here. But yeah, so it's, we got a big problem at the southern border. Illegals are being transferred around the country.
Yeah.
Some have come into our state and near our city and other locations in the state. And, we don't know where they are. We don't know how they're being supported. I don't know if their family members know exactly where they are at this point. But the planes are touching down in the middle of the night, and these people are getting out.
Yeah, I think it was just outside of New York City, wasn't it?
Yep.
They had the news article about it. I don't know how many people got off the plane, but people were like, "Why is this happening in the middle of the night?"
In the middle of the night. Yeah,
Where
in
are
the
we
middle of the
hiding?
night. Yeah, it was Westchester County
Yeah.
or something like that, right down there by New York City. So this is a big problem, and it should be addressed. We are in a time that this is the most illogical time that I've ever spent in the United States of America. There's so many things that are taking place that you cannot, if you were on the other side, you cannot argue logically or with common sense, in my opinion, to make your case.
Yeah.
You can't do it. How do you make the case of just transporting hundreds of thousands of illegals around the country illegally?
Right.
You can't do it. And so we're in a mess.
And the idea, and I think that the way that they get around the illegality of everything is they've been processed, they have their day in court, they just get to await their day in court here.
Yeah.
And so the politicians and the law enforcement who's participating or whatever, they're not breaking the law. They've done everything that they need to do, to abide by the law. They have their day in court. If they get deported, they get deported. But they haven't broken the law. It's a game. It's an annoying game because you want to say, like, that they're not going to show.
Mm-hmm.
You know that you're just putting them all over the country. You're getting them here, and then you're never going to check in on it again. It's not going to happen.
Right. It's just not going to happen.
And I listened to a story on NPR. I do listen to NPR every once in a while. I think I actually like NPR sometimes. You know why? I feel like it's interesting to hear, to not stay in the echo chamber.
Hey, know your enemy.
You know what I
right?
mean? And
it's so important to know your enemy.
So I'm listening to NPR, and this was just an interesting story about some workers on the southern border where they have kids who are smuggling drugs over the border. Okay?
Yep.
So they know that if the kid is under 18, they'll process the child, and then they return them to It's a building like 300 yards back into Mexico. And then the kid has to sit in this building. They get processed by the Mexican government. The Mexican government will call the kid's parents. The parents will come in. It's like going to the principal's office.
Yeah.
Right? They're in detention for a minute, and then they go back and they're home the same night. And so there's these kids that are making money for their family by bringing drugs over. They get caught. They get sent back to this building. That same night, the parents come pick them up, and it starts over the next day. And it's a game.
It's a game.
And the U.S. Border Patrol was being interviewed, and they're like, yeah, we know these kids, like, it's like they're neighborhood kids.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I don't know, whatever the kid's name is. Hey, Joe, why are you doing this? Because I can't go to jail for it. I'm making money.
Yep.
And when I turn 18, I won't do it anymore because I know I'll get arrested. It's all a game.
It's all a game, and the administration is setting the rules of the game, and it is pro illegal immigration and anti law. It's anti-law the way it presently states.
What do you think about? I just want to maybe touch on this. We touched on it maybe at the beginning of the topic, but what do you think of the people as people? Right? What is their value?
The ones coming in?
Yeah, the illegal immigrants. They're coming over, and I think one of the straw mans that get put up about people who are kind of pro-border is that nobody's illegal. You know what I mean? They attack our view of who they are and the value that the immigrants have as people, as a human. What do you think?
Well, first, I would go back. My first argument in that would again be the law, and I would state, certainly every human being that wants to come into this country is a valued life. Mm-hmm. We are all made in the image of God, and therefore we all have intrinsic value. Mm-hmm. But that does not stand in a vacuum when it comes to our border. Mm-hmm. And that is this. First of all, we really cannot afford to support millions of people coming into this country that don't want to work or can't work, right? And so we've got the American people have to support them, and in my estimation, it is not the right thing to tell the American people you must support these illegals coming in simply because the President of the United States says so.
Sure.
That is a iron-fisted way to do it. It is a non-freedom way to do it. It is illogical to do it that way, and it puts more punishment upon legal American citizens through tax increases and punishment of that ilk. And what do I mean by that? I mean this. We are losing, there's many that are losing their jobs, their incomes, because they will not get vaccinated. Mm-hmm. Yet the illegals coming in don't need to be vaccinated. And my guess is that they will never be required to be vaccinated, especially if they never get a job.
Yeah.
Right? So again, the American citizen is being treated as a second-class citizen, and the illegals are being treated as higher citizens, if you will. They're making a hierarchy of individuals and saying, because we need to be compassionate for these people, and you, Joe, are rich, and me, Bob, are rich, and we need to take the hit.
That's right.
All right, for these people. So again, I don't buy into this.
Is there a need for reform, do you think, in the immigration system? Or do you think that the current immigration system that we have is without major flaw? That it's the right way to do it? Kind of, it should be a slow process. It should be something that takes a long time. Or do you think that that's also kind of a red herring argument that, do you think that it's by design supposed to be kind of a longer process? Or do you think that it should be something that's a little bit more streamlined? Do you think it should be merit-based? I think Trump was pushing that during his presidency. He thought that the immigration system should be more of a merit-based system instead of a lottery-based system. I mean, I think that there's room. I think that maybe this goes back to, what we were saying before, executive orders and kind of pushing through laws, quote unquote, using loopholes to get laws put through on the books isn't the way to do it. Maybe this is something that really just needs to be hammered out and put down on paper and put in front of the president's desk to be signed into law. If you want it to be made better, make it better.
Yeah, again, that's what we were talking about earlier. If you don't like the way it is change the
right.
law.
Change
the law. To answer your question directly, I do think the process being somewhat slow to become an American citizen is a good thing.
Sure.
I think it's reasonable for people that want to become citizens of the United States, that they understand our Constitution, that they understand our ways, that they buy into our culture, and that they want to make America better by their presence and their citizenship.
Yeah.
If you're coming in because you want a handout, and because things are better here for you than where you were born, then I think those people need to be vetted. Listen, nobody wants to exclude good people with good intentions that want to work hard and
want opportunity.
That want opportunity
Sure.
to be excluded from coming into this nation. But those that just want to live off the system, those that are criminals, those that want to do drug things and transport women and girls back and forth across the borders, those people have no business in this country and should be excluded from being in this country. Mm-hmm. And so should this be looked at again by Congress? Perhaps.
Yeah.
It's probably been a long time since we've looked at the immigration laws in this country, but it should be a process, and that process, during that process, we should be vetting people as to whether or not they really have a desire to become a brick in the foundation
Sure.
of this nation,
Sure.
or do they want to come in with a sledgehammer and break it down?
Sure, I agree.
And that's where I stand on that. What about Afghanistan? Afghanistan has turned this nation, we abandoned our allies. We really let the world down. We certainly let a lot of Afghanis down. And the worst thing is that we abandon American citizens, American people in this land. Now the number's up to like 450.
I was going to say, I don't know if we have a good number.
I don't think we do.
I know that they said 100 at first, or around 100, and it just keeps. Now it's quadrupled.
Yeah, not right. And now we're at 450. Anything coming? Listen, I've said this before, and while it's a little bit of a hyperbole, I don't think it's that much. I've said that there's only one entity, there's only one individual that's lied more and longer than Joe Biden, and that's the devil. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I believe that. Mm-hmm. That guy opens his mouth, lies come out. Mm-hmm. And I just, when he says, when he decided to bail out of Afghanistan, give them hundreds of billions of dollars of equipment that they're now going to use against us, that's horrible. But the worst thing is to have left American citizens there, abandon them along with Afghanis that were pro-American.
Sure.
And now they're in hiding because the Taliban is after them. We're making a deal with the Taliban while American citizens are being left to die. This should never, ever, ever leave the American citizen's mind.
No.
Ever.
No.
What this president did when he left American citizens and abandoned them in a hostile foreign country.
Right. Yeah. He left them for dead.
He left them for dead, could care less about them. And while the world looks at us as being weak, which we are,
totally.
Frankly, I don't think this nation's ever been weaker.
I agree.
Ever. And that means that goes through presidencies like Jimmy Carter, who was a doofus when it came to world policies. The only one worse than Jimmy Carter is the guy that's in the White House right now, and that's Biden.
I think the biggest damage on the world stage is definitely how others view us now. They see us as weak. They see us as not. I mean, we don't have our act together
if I was
in
your,
any way.
If I was your ally, would you trust me right
No,
now if you
and
were
if-
the United States?
No, and if you were my enemy, we would be very emboldened right now.
Absolutely.
Right? And
100%.
And I think that China is kind of flexing.
Yep.
China's definitely flexing right now, and I think that these are reasons why they see an incompetence and an inability to make important decisions that benefit America. Right? Biden doesn't make the decision that benefits the United States, and it makes us look weak. And I believe, like you said, we are weak now.
We are weak. I mean, our president is weak. His administration is weak. I don't, whether it's on the world stage or on our own home front, you got the Secretary of Commerce. He's at home with his husband. I think he's Transportation. I'm sorry, Secretary of Transportation, Buttigieg, and he's home with his husband on 8 or 12 weeks of paternity leave. While they probably cry over the fact that his wife or whatever you want to call him, can't produce milk out of his breast to feed their new kids. They're probably crying over that. And we've got this complete disaster with being able to supply goods in the United States. And he said, it's not going to be over until COVID's over. And they're burying their head in the sand.
That's it.
That guy's a moron, okay? He is a moron. And on the world stage, look at Milley, the guy that's in charge of the military. This guy is another pansy, wuss, left-wing kook that's in charge of the military. And, while we've got the United States of America being as weak as it's ever been, while China's doing a lot of saber rattling, North Korea is probably going to be emboldened, Russians emboldened. What are we talking about? What pronouns to use when we address a person with an XY chromosome or two? This is nuts what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's illogical.
It's a cartoon. It
is a cartoon. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
it's a cartoon, and yet we're living through it, and it's disastrous to the average American. It's absolutely disastrous. But I want to remind everybody about Afghanistan. The President of the United States, who is supposed to be the father of this country, he's supposed to be a paternalistic figure. He's supposed to be a man or a woman, but in this case, a man that has empathy and compassion for the American people, that loves them with his heart, and he abandoned those Americans in Afghanistan and could give two hoots about what takes place in their lives, what they go through. This guy should have already been brought up on charges of treason, in my opinion. And I don't want any American citizen to ever forget what he did, because you want to know something? If he has an opportunity, he'll do it to you.
He'll do it
to you. And frankly, if you're an unvaccinated worker that works for the federal government, or a private entity that does work for the federal government, or belongs to a corporation that has 100 employees or more, if you don't get vaccinated, you're going to get fired. And he just told somebody who asked him the question, if a cop doesn't get vaccinated, should he be fired? His answer is yes. So he's coming after you too.
Yes.
The king of the United States of America, the despot, is coming after you too.
It's not only abandoning the people in Afghanistan, he's abandoning the people that are here.
Absolutely. No question about it. No question about it. We've got, what about the economy, Joe? I don't know if we can interweave the Christian faith into this economy. We've got problems at our docks. You mentioned, I think, before we went on the air that China controls about 80% of the docks in L.A.
I think so. It's a high percentage of the Port of L.A. is run by a Chinese firm.
And Carter gave the Panama Canal to the Chinese, right? So they can do anything they want, allowing ships through or not allowing ships through. But we've got scores of ships that have been out in the
there was 110 maybe at the peak. I think it's starting to open now. DeSantis, though, did you hear about this? He said, bring him over to me.
Bring him to me. We got the room, we got the space, we got the people. We'll unload these things, and we'll get the products around the country. It's the ports are in big trouble. You had a customer, Joe, that wanted to get his car repaired, and what'd you tell him?
I told him that I don't have a part. I can't get a part.
Did he believe you?
He did not. He didn't know about the. The story kind of goes like this: you need an alternator. We can't get you the alternator. It's like 6 weeks away, and he's like, 6 weeks? That's outrageous. And I said, yep, it's outrageous. My coworker was speaking. It's outrageous. We usually have it in stock, but it's probably floating out on the Pacific.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? What are you talking about? There's, at that time, like 75 ships sitting out of port. They can't unload. And he said, no way. He said, that's not true. He went and did some research, came back a couple weeks later, apologized. Man, I had no idea that that was actually taking place, which is not surprising to me. It's just now kind of starting to be talked about by the mainstream media, the supply chain. They make it, it's very interesting. I love the way that the mainstream, excuse me, you may have heard of the supply chain issue. It's like, man, we've been talking about supply chain issue for months now.
Months.
But anyways, he comes back in, apologizes, and what really surprised all of us is when he said, it's okay because Joe's on the job. Oh my gosh.
How'd you take that, Joe?
I laughed.
Yeah.
I laughed.
Yeah.
A couple of coworkers laughed. But he was serious.
Yep, Joe's on the
job.
Yeah.
There you go. Here's some interaction from somebody on Facebook Live. It's actually my mom. I love it. I have a package on one of those ships since August.
Yeah?
August.
Yeah.
Did you hear Jen Psaki was talking about was making fun of it, when she was talking about the treadmill. It's too bad. We got some treadmills that are hanging out on port, and we can't get those into our homes right away. It's not treadmills.
Little Red Lying Hood?
It's
Who
just
said that?
It's just the kind of the attitude of it's all fun and games, or it's not that big of a deal. Our economy is really suffering right now. People are suffering.
Right. We should be screaming. Our economy should be screaming. We're well out of the at least the lockdowns of the pandemic, and we can't get parts. We, in my business, products that used to be 2 to 4 weeks to get here are now 17, 18, 19, 20 weeks.
Isn't that unbelievable?
It's unbelievable. I was talking to an electrical contractor the other day, and he wanted some poles to put some site lighting up in the guy's parking lot. They're typically 4 weeks from the day of the order to the day that the guy get them. 17 weeks to ship. And I started to think about it, and I said, it's going to be 2022 before you get it. It's going to be the middle of winter up here in upstate New York before you get a pole to put up a light. And it's just crazy because can't get the steel. Can't get the steel or the aluminum, depending on what you're making.
Sure.
It is, people are concerned about Christmas, right? The toys and other presents not being able to be ready for Christmas. It's much, much, much deeper than that.
Yeah.
What if you worked for an automotive corporation? You're building cars and don't have chips. You can't ship them.
You're not shipping cars. We're experiencing that right now. Our lot normally has several hundred new cars on it. We do not have several hundred new cars right now.
No.
And we're not getting the product as quickly as we would normally get it. And but it trickles down. It's from cars to lighting to everyday
loaf
goods.
of
bread and food, and I think in our area right now we're not seeing empty shelves, but you do see the pictures of around the country of shelves that are empty. Maybe towns that maybe don't have as big of an infrastructure as we do in a larger city, but that directly relates to people's jobs, the cost of living. Fuel is outrageous right now, and it's going higher.
Yep.
And the economy is slowing down so much. It was booming not 2 years ago.
Not 2 years ago. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Black unemployment had never been lower.
Right.
In 2018, I think it was. And things were super, super booming.
What was that? That was under the most racist president of all time, right?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 45.
Yeah,
45.
Right.
The guy that that hated the minorities.
That's right.
I don't think any president, other than maybe Abraham Lincoln, did more for minorities, Hispanics, blacks in this country. And he stood up for life in the womb, and there's more black lives killed in the womb than you and I can even imagine. And he was, come on, let's have your kids. Bring more into this nation. And that's all gone now, of course. That's all gone. But the economy, the federal government doesn't use all of the material that we buy day in and day out to determine what inflation is. And they're like at between 5 and 6%, where in reality, the average American is seeing price increases between 15 and 20%.
Right.
The gasoline pump, for starters,
sure.
I mean, is it up 75 cents?
Oh, man.
$1?
Maybe $1.
If it's up $1, that's like a 30% increase over a year ago. And the administration says, well, that's because demand is high now that we're pulling out of the pandemic.
No, that's because the Keystone Pipeline got shut down because we're depending on foreign oil now.
Exactly. We were self-sufficient.
It's
we
silly.
wound up being the number one producer of oil in the world. And 2 years later, we're now dependent on the Middle East again.
But who, are the American people do they not see that? When the president says it's because we're pulling out of a pandemic, do they believe that? Do you think most Americans believe that?
Absolutely.
And that's the sad thing.
Absolutely. Most Americans turn on CNN, MSNBC, your nightly news, CBS, NBC, and they hear that and they say, yeah, that makes sense.
They hear a narrative and they go with it.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's a supply and demand thing. Demand is greater than supply, so prices go up.
I'm not going to look into it. I'll go back on Facebook. I'm done.
And in fact, supply and demand is true of capitalism, and the demand is probably higher now than it was when everybody was staying at home, but it's the supply that's been reduced that's caused this artificial supply-demand issue thing and caused prices to go up.
Sure.
I can tell you locally, Costco has reduced the amount of paper goods that you can buy. We're back to those pandemic cases.
Are they limiting it?
They're limiting it, yeah. So you can only buy, one... whatever you call it, one package of toilet paper or paper towels. I don't know if they're limiting bottled water yet, but they did in the past. They're now putting limits on that stuff again because the supply is just not there. And is there a demand that's a little bit artificial because people are hoarding again? That could be, but it's not that complicated. If you increase supply, which this administration does not seem to be putting that on the front burner the way it should be, all this stuff goes away. Prices come down, stock on the shelves becomes greater, and when the supply is greater than the demand, the prices go down.
That's right.
And that's just how it works. So we're in big trouble. The middle class America that's barely making it. We haven't even talked about natural gas.
Right.
Which in some reports is up 300%. That's not all going to be passed along to the consumer, but they said it's very, very easy for you to expect a minimum of a 50% increase in your natural gas pricing. And if you're an individual that's on your middle class America budget, and you're on a tight budget, and last year you were paying $200 a month for your utility bill, most of which was probably natural gas, warm yourself up to maybe $300.
Were you surprised at your RG&E bill last month?
I was.
What the heck
almost
happened?
Threw up. I looked at that thing and said, I dove into the thing and said, look, did I really use this much electric? I could not believe it.
I agree.
My bill might have been the highest it's ever been.
Here. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, now I didn't go any farther than to look into it, but I did scratch my head. I forget what my bill was, $240 or something like that.
Ours was high. Ours was up there. And I mean, we're talking like the dead of winter, got the heat up kind of bill.
Exactly.
And it was like the September-October bill.
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting a 160, 170, and it was like 240.
What the heck?
And I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it.
But that's a wake up call to people, and I hope that in the back of my mind, I kind of thought, well, I hope that happens to a bunch of people because I want them to see this is what these policies bring.
Yep.
Higher prices
Yep.
across the board, food, gas, utilities, scarceness of product. And this is the party of compassion, the party that wants to be here for you, to help you along. How?
Exactly.
Are they now the cynical side of me says, is this intentional? Is the price increases, the scarcity, is it all intentional so that it could be said, you know what? It can't be handled like this anymore. We need to take the whole thing over, and we'll provide everything for you so you don't have to worry anymore.
That could be. I wouldn't put anything past the left. I just wouldn't put anything past them. And of course, if your goal is that of AOC and Bernie Sanders and others that are in the far left of the Democratic Party, if your goal is to turn this nation into a communist nation, this would be a way to do it. But this would be one step in the way to do it. But all you got to do is take a look at the recent history of the country of Venezuela.
Sure.
Listen to somebody that's escaped the horrors of communism in Venezuela, a country that just a couple of years ago was extremely prosperous, and now they're standing in line for food.
So I was talking to my manager about this the other day, and there was a kind of an uprising in Cuba, right, that we heard about a little bit at the beginning of the summer.
Right.
And it kind of went away.
It did.
Why did it go away?
You know?
I'm convinced that the people of Cuba, if they could have an open microphone to talk to the American people, would tell them, run away as fast as you can from the policies and where this country is headed. Because we're 50, 60 years in, and we know what it leads to.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it looked good at the time. It looked like it would be something that would be okay at the time. It's not. It's not what it makes itself out to be. It's going to lead to, to their conditions.
Whether it's communism or any other type of government in that ilk, it always comes with oppression. Mm-hmm. And oppression is one of the worst things a person or an entity can do to another person mm-hmm. or another entity. Mm-hmm. It's wielding their power to push you down and to control you. And if you have freedom in the front of your mind, if you have liberty in the front of your mind, if you have, I want to work hard and keep what I've earned as part of your mind, you'll be squashed.
Yeah.
You'll be squashed. You'll be jailed, in other countries, sent to gulags, sent to work camps. You'll be indoctrinated into the communist way of life, or you'll be killed. Mm-hmm. And, you say, well, that's pretty much a far stretch for the United States of America. Let me tell you, I'll give you one example in that it's not. And that is whether it was President Trump or most recently Dennis Prager. Do you know who he is?
I do.
Okay, Prager University, PragerU. This guy is just a normal American, very intelligent, very bright, that does a good job in somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes. He puts videos up online to explain different things.
Sure.
Capitalism, supply and demand. Is there a God? I mean, some of these things are deep philosophical things. Others are the way that the world works. He's very, very cool, calm, and collected about it. He doesn't attack anybody, just tries to explain things philosophically or scientifically. He got COVID, mm-hmm. and he got a lot of people online, Twitter, I think especially, that said, I hope you die.
Yep.
I hope you die. There are many people today, that if you're unvaccinated right now, do not want you to be able to go to a hospital. Right. They want you to die. So if you tell me that it's a long step for this nation under a communistic rule, which we are on our way to receiving, for people to die that don't go along with the policies of the government, it's not a long stretch anymore, Joe. It's a short step. Mm-hmm. We're almost there. When people would rather you died at home of COVID than get help, get treatment simply because you chose not to get vaccinated, when you stand for middle of the road to right on your political beliefs and views, and you get sick and they hope you die, we're not that far. We're not that far. We are clearly the divided states of America, and we as Christians need to continue to pray for our enemies, and we need to have compassion on those that are sick and come forward and help the widows and the orphans and those that are not well, either physically or mentally or whatever it is. We need to take a stand for what's right. And I just, when it comes to this nation, Sue and I pray daily for this country because I think we are in deep, 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 deep trouble. And I may have said it before on this show, but I got to say my favorite passage in the Bible with regard to a nation, righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. The Word of God says, here's what he told his people in 2 Chronicles 7:14. He said, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. Here's what God will do. If we, people called by his name, that's you and me. That's born-again Christians. We need to pray. We need to humble ourselves. We need to seek his face. And we need to turn from our wicked ways. If we will do those things, here's what he promises. He promises, I will hear from heaven. I will heal your land and forgive your sins. I think it's that simple. And oh, by the way, let me tell you, this is my opinion, but I believe COVID-19 is a result of abortion. I believe it's a result of legalized abortion in this nation and in the nation of China primarily. Those are the two countries that are getting hit the hardest with COVID deaths because we are the ones that promote abortion and pay for abortion more than we do it more than all the other nations combined. Now, in part, that's because of the size of our nations, but nevertheless, we are out there saying we think we ought to be able to abort your baby up to the day of birth, and indeed, if we can, we'll pay for it as a government. And that's where we are in my humble opinion. What do you think about Taiwan, Joe? I'm going to go back to world politics for a minute and the world situation. China's doing some saber rattling with Taiwan.
I don't think that Taiwan is as confident in us as an ally as they may have been in the past.
Right. Would you be?
How could they be? How could they be?
When you abandon your own people,
right.
What would make you think you wouldn't abandon
stand up for another nation. People group? Yeah, right. It's I know.
So what do you think if China decides that they want to invade Taiwan? What do you think the United States will do?
I think that the United States would have some it's Biden. Maybe
it's Biden.
Maybe
think about
some harsh talk. Maybe. I don't know. I honestly don't think that he would run to Taiwan's defense. Although he said that he would.
But remember what took place hours later?
Right.
When Psaki got in front of everybody, said, our policy toward Taiwan hasn't changed.
Right.
She essentially negated what Biden said. Here's my opinion. My opinion is we watch Taiwan crumble.
I agree. That's
we
probably
watch
what would
them
happen.
crumble. We won't send a troop. We won't send a ship. We will do nothing as Taiwan crumbles under the power of evil communist China.
Yeah.
And if we don't do anything, and if the world doesn't do anything, it could be the start of some big, big trouble.
Yeah.
Let's talk about. Let's go on the national side for a minute, as we're really running short on time. How about the Loudoun County, Virginia School Board? You know what I'm talking about there?
Bunch of
what kind of cover-up? What did they cover up?
They covered up rape.
They covered up rape and sodomy.
That's right.
Right? They covered it up. They knew it took place. They transferred that kid to another school.
Was it a few months between they have the emails from the school board president acknowledging.
Right. He tried to say he didn't know anything about it,
but the
emails
months
brought
before.
Well, and
if I was a parent, you would be dragging that parent. You would be dragging me out of that school board meeting in cuffs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know a father who loves his daughter,
right,
that wouldn't have done the same thing this guy did, maybe more. And I, too, would be taken out, and I would be addressed as a domestic terrorist by this evil administration that we're under right now in Washington, D.C., because you are going to pay for harming my daughter and for covering it up.
I mean, we're seeing people being pulled out of school board meetings by police officers because their masks are not worn properly.
That just happened.
It happened here.
Yeah, it happened here. Yeah, it happened here.
Local radio host got pulled out. Shannon Joy, she got pulled out.
Yep.
She had that all on video, arrested for it. It happened again. But now we're talking about my daughter being physically raped.
She will be changed for the worse for the rest of
Forever.
her life. And those evil morons on that school board tried to cover it up like nothing happened. Nothing happened. And to me, every person on that school board, every single one of them that was aware of what took place, deserves to be punished.
Yes, I agree.
They should, if they're convicted, and I can't imagine they wouldn't be, but if they were convicted, they should do jail time and should never, ever be able to serve the public in any capacity ever again.
Agree.
Period.
Agree.
That's evil what they did, and you can't find a liberal media outlet that's even talking about this today.
No, because you can't. That was what they said was our straw man about having men in the women's bathroom or the women's locker room. It was our straw man. That wouldn't happen. That's not what this is about. This is about somebody's identification and how they identify and being compassionate and letting them identify the way that they want. You're putting up a straw man by saying that our children are in danger. No, we're not.
No,
we took a logical approach to it and said that this is a potential to happen, right?
Yeah. To all those on the left who say they trust science, there are two sexes. I know there's a new checkbox on a passport where you can check a box that says you don't want to be identified as either. Get real. You said this is a cartoon.
It's a cartoon.
We're living in a cartoon age. You're either a male or a female. And when you allow a male to go into a girl's bathroom, why would you not expect, at least from time to time, for something like this to take place? That kid, you allowed that boy to go into a girl's locker room and overpower her with his strength and mind and do things that, frankly, he should be tried as an adult. I know he's already been tried and convicted. It should have been as an adult, and the kid should be in jail.
Yeah.
The kid should be in jail for what he did. This is insanity. This is insane that this is taking place anywhere in the United States of America, or for that matter, on this planet.
Right.
Come, Lord Jesus. Come, Lord Jesus. There's voting coming up, Joe, in first Tuesday here in New York State. What do you think? Should there ever be a time when Christians don't get out of their lazy boy chair and vote? Should there ever be a time when they don't vote?
No, I think we should be actively at the polls.
Absolutely.
100%.
I agree.
I think we should have our research done on candidates that are on the ballot, and that we should be voting for the people who have the same values and ideals that we have.
Yep.
Right? I mean, or else how could we complain?
Exactly.
How could we say anything if the country goes down or policies are against, our morals and beliefs, but we didn't go to the polls? How could we say a word?
Not only can't we complain, but by being apathetic toward candidates and voting for the one that holds our values, if there is such a candidate, we are responsible for whoever gets in by not voting. If that person is not is not a person that puts law above everything else, and frankly, the fact that born-again Christians have stayed out of politics for so long because that's what's been preached in the churches. That's secular, stay away from it, and our job is to preach the gospel and nothing else. There's no doubt that to preach the gospel is certainly the main concern of the true church of Jesus Christ. But to tell the people don't be concerned about the world out there is nuts. Right? How do you expect good laws and good representation, and by that I mean someone that fears the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? The God that says, the God whose name is I am, right? Jehovah. How do we expect people in government to fear him and do their best to abide by his commandments if we don't have anybody to vote for along those lines, right? Sure. We can't. We need born-again men and women to run. There's a couple in Congress right now. Marjorie Greene is one of them, and there's a few more. Praise God that they had the strength and the boldness to do it and to stand up for their faith, and may many, many more get in, and may we get off our duffs and vote for them. In New York State, I just want to tell you, there's 5 measures that are up besides the candidates, and I want to read this. Measure 1, incidentally, measures 1, 3, and 4 should be a no vote for every Christian in the state of New York. Proposal number 1 would make it easy for the majority party to override any recommendation of a commission, an independent commission that was put into place back in 2014 that is a bipartisan board made up of equal members of both parties, such that before you can redraw any congressional districts, this commission must give it a nod. Okay? Proposal number 1 says do away with the commission, essentially. Do away with the commission and allow the party that's in charge to be able to draw new district lines for their political favor.
Okay, so real quick, I feel like obviously that political lines, right, drawing the districts and redrawing of the districts has always been kind of a contentious thing. In New York, do you think that it matters at this point?
I do. And I think
tell me why.
Okay, I think it matters in giving up on this bipartisan commission. Because it's just another step in full. I know your point, Joe. Your point is we are in such a liberal democratic state that the Democrats will always be in power.
It's like an iron-fisted control. There's no way that we're going to take that back.
But there are pockets in this state that are still red.
I agree.
There are districts and counties in this state that are still red. Not a lot of them, but there are. And with redistricting by the Democrats, that's going to go away.
Okay.
All right, that will go away. It's just another step in complete and total control.
Sure.
Proposal number 3 and 4 would allow same-day registration with no safeguards to uncount the vote of a same-day registrant if it's found out that they voted before. All right, that's Proposal 3. And Proposal number 4 would allow unlimited absentee balloting, which a commission headed by former President Jimmy Carter once warned would be the largest source of potential voter fraud. That's proposals 1, 3, and 4. They demand a no vote from us, from those that want fair elections and above-board elections. So,
Bob, do you know how they're going to read out on the ballot? It's probably not going to be in great detail.
It may not be in great detail, but I've read from more than one entity that saying no to those is the way to go.
Sure.
Okay, so it's going to be.
I agree with you, but I guess what I'm getting at is the person who's going to be at the polls, if they haven't done the research on the proposals on the backside of the ballot.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Is it going to be clear that they're voting for either yes or no, same day registration, unable to overturn that vote without question, no safeguards? Are they going to be able to see that that's what they're voting yes on?
They
or
will
no,
not.
Or no on? Probably not, right?
Right. They will not see that the safeguards are removed. They will not see that they can that with this passage they would not uncount a second or third or fourth or fifth vote.
So here's something that I think is lacking in at least local media, or these things should be at the very top of the news, in my opinion. They're so broad and large in their scope, how they could change the way that votes are counted in our state. It's so major, and I haven't heard a word about these proposals.
Yep. I did not either, Joe, until I got notified by Christian organizations on these proposals coming up and what they were or are and how to vote if we have anything in our gut that says we want to keep elections honest and true and above board. And it's just, but this is what comes out of Albany. This is what comes out of left-wing liberal politics and policies. And we've been under that since the last election where the Republicans lost the Senate in New York State, and so it's like the government in Washington. We have no power.
Sure.
So all we can do is voice our opinion and hope that the people will listen and respond accordingly in the voting booth. So my plea is with anyone that's hearing this, that you certainly, if you're a Christian, that you vote, and you vote for those candidates and those proposals that essentially either maintain or improve your freedom and liberties, and you vote against those that stand against you, that want to oppress you. And of course, if there's a born-again individual that's running that fears God among all things, if there are candidates that say that your freedom and liberty should be higher on your grading than whatever the government says, then as long as that person, this is my opinion, is not a pro-abortion person, they need you to consider them greatly for your vote. We are, every time, and these aren't general elections with major impact. That's next year in 2022, which my hope and my prayer is that good, solid, conservative men and women overwhelmingly take over both the Senate and the House. I don't know how you do it if elections are really, if cheating is going on with these national elections, which let me tell you, I don't know whether or not, may never know whether or not the election was stolen for the President of the United States. But for a reasonable human being to think that there wasn't some hanky-panky somewhere across this nation, I think you've just got your head in the sand. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you? Do you think think that everything was above board?
I don't think it's ever all above board.
It probably isn't ever all above board.
No, I don't see when you anything in government, or that the government has their hand in, ever is being all above board.
Yeah, when you look at Philadelphia, when Republican people wanted to be there, when the votes were being counted, and they were not allowed to come in the room. Listen,
that alone is just
that alone is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Were votes changed or were votes added or taken away? I don't know.
You'll never know.
But it doesn't matter. That point doesn't matter. The point is, if you're not allowing people to observe the way that they're allowed to observe, how could you not at least question the integrity of what took place?
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that anything. I won't go as far as saying things are stolen, or I don't like to go down that road because you can't prove it. But how could you not at least call it into question?
Exactly. It should have been called into question, and there should have been, and to the best of my knowledge, there wasn't. There should have been an answer put into place for all of these irregularities that took place.
Sure.
And that should be somehow, some way, bipartisan attendees to all of these things that take place in the voting booth, at the voting polls, and afterwards when the votes are being counted. And of course, somehow there should be oversight with all the electronics that take place today, and it should be bipartisan. It should be people that just want the truth.
That's right. It should be people who love the truth.
Exactly.
That's what it should be. And if you know what? If our country votes in a way and it's all above board and they vote in a way that I would disagree with, I'm sad that that's the way that it took place, but it was above board and it's the way that the people voted and it's the way our country is set up. Okay, so be it.
Yes, I'd be disappointed as well, but that's the truth. That's the way the American people really voted. Then that's our government.
That's right.
That's our government. That's how it works, and we work harder to see that our people get in next time if they lost this time. No question about it. But when you don't know what's happening, you become discouraged and despondent.
You become skeptical.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want to be skeptical of our elections. I don't want to be skeptical.
No.
I want to know that it's done and it's done correctly and it was done truthfully. And there's, again, election law is abided by. I don't want double votes. I don't want people being shady. The cheat, I don't know. It's simple. It should almost be a non-topic, right? We shouldn't even have to talk about something like that.
It really should be, and yet the losing side just grasps at anything to try and overturn it, and this is indeed the divided states of America.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. It's and it's. I want to put a plug in for an organization called WND. You can find them online, called WND.com. Everybody that works there is a born-again Christian, and they give you unvarnished news, the truth. And David Kuplian, who is the editor-in-chief of WND, said this: "This is no longer Republican versus Democrat, left versus right. We're well past that. This is good as described and defined by God versus evil. That's where we are right here." And I think he's right. I think he's completely right. And so I would like everybody to, and we'll put this up on the video when it hits YouTube and Rumble. But that would be WND.com. There's another organization where you can get the truth, and that's called Epoch Times. And their website is The Epoch Times, EPOCH, one word.com. And that is a tremendous organization that's gaining a lot of popularity and a lot of subscribers. You get the unvarnished truth there as well. Both of these entities have been tried to have been crushed by Facebook and Twitter, and so the things that they're saying are against the popular opinion, which probably means in many cases they're telling the truth, right? And it's right. And the final organization that I want you to go on to and check out online is American Frontline Doctors. American Frontline Doctors, which is America's Frontline Doctors, one word, .org, is an incredible organization of doctors that believe more in freedom and personal responsibility than they do in abiding by governmental mandates that reduce your freedom and reduce your personal choice and reduce your personal responsibility. From their standpoint, it's a medical issue. Obviously, they're doctors. The woman who began this organization is not only a medical doctor, she's an attorney as well. This is one.
She's both?
She's both.
Wow, that's impressive.
Very impressive. She just spoke last night at a Calvary Chapel church in, I think, Santa Monica, California. I haven't heard what she had to say yet, but she is a wise, just incredibly knowledgeable individual who is on the front lines against the government taking over our medical lives. And so, those three entities, they need your support. Every one of them is going to ask for your support. And I would say dig in, learn about them, see if you agree with them. And if you do, send them $5, send them $10, send them $25, send them $100, right? They need your help in staying around because they are proclaiming the truth at a time when we can't get it from the major media outlets.
Here, their first What We Believe. AFLDS believes that the American people have the right to accurate information using trusted data derived from decades of practical experience, not political science or politicized science and big tech filtered public health information. I mean, that sounds
How does that
pretty
sound
good.
to you?
Just sounds like science to me.
Sounds like
regular,
science.
like normal science.
Like normal science. Exactly right.
I would probably say they believe in the science.
They believe in the science,
right?
Sure, they do. And you know, obviously, the vaccine right now is the big deal. And they stand at the point that, listen, the disease is real, but we don't know enough about the vaccine to say that you have to be mandated to get it. It needs to be a personal decision. And oh, by the way, they are in favor of all the prophylactic medicines that are out there to either help you from getting COVID before you get it or in assisting you from staying out of the hospital once you get it. Things like, can't say the word because YouTube will cancel us, but that horse thing, right?
The dewormer?
Yeah, the dewormer. The horse dewormer is one of the drugs that has been used for decades for other uses with very, very little side effects. They know that, and they do have enough proof right now to know that it reduces the severity of the disease. And there's others as well. We now have monoclonal antibodies that can be used in someone that's in the first stages of COVID, and that stuff works. They are in favor of using those things that work, that help to reduce the severity of the disease, while the political aspect of this COVID-19 does not want to acknowledge that and allow you to use it, and it makes me sick. Did you ever watch the old Star Trek?
I did. Which one?
The ones with William Shatner.
Not so much that. I was more of like my dad and I watched Next Generation.
That was Picard. Also very good. But I can't remember the doctor's name on the old USS Enterprise, but he was called Bones by William Shatner, right? And whenever the captain would go to him and say to him, listen, we need to do this and this and that, if he couldn't do it, he would always get excited. He would say something, like, damn it, Jim, I'm this or I'm that, or this can't be done. Well, I saw a cartoon the other day, and the cartoon has one guy asking Bones, right? How long do you think this COVID thing is going to last? And he goes, damn it, I'm a doctor, not a politician. I have no way of answering that question.
I think, I don't want to start into the COVID discussion because we could make the show go forever. But I think there's a lot of people who we would have identified as pretty hard left who are starting to realize that this is all politics. Real-time host Bill Maher.
Yeah.
Pretty left-leaning guy.
Way left-leaning guy.
But he had a gentleman on the other night, and he just said, this was his quote to his audience, just resume living. I know some people seem to not want you to give up the wonderful pandemic, but you know what? It's over. There's always going to be a variant. You shouldn't have to wear masks. I should be too. I haven't been meeting with my he makes a quote there. He continues, where was it? I travel in every state now, back on the road, and the red states are a joy and the blue states are a pain in the ass for no reason.
How about Florida right now with no mask mandate, with no mandates at all regarding this COVID thing, other than you can't mandate you need to wear a mask or be vaccinated. And I think right now they have the lowest incidence of COVID-19 of any state in the United States in the last couple of weeks. There's no question in my mind that if we just return to normal, would COVID-19 and the variants, the Delta variant, other variants be around? Yes, they would. But you know what? We would start using these prophylactic medicines that are available to all of us, and it's now coming out, here's a surprise, that natural immunity looks like, whoa, is better and lasts longer and is stronger than any immunity you get from any mRNA vaccination, which right now the CD is saying, we might have to change the definition of fully vaccinated to include the first shot, the second shot, and then a booster shot.
Yeah.
And then who knows whether or not you're going to need that every 6 months. Oh, by the way, fire Fauci. All right,
I agree with
fire Fauci.
Yeah.
He cannot be believed. He's another liar. He's lied under oath. He should be He should
have to
arrested.
lose his position.
He should have to
Correct.
lose his position and maybe even lose his medical license for what he has done.
I agree.
Fire Fauci.
I agree.
All right, he's the American people don't believe him any longer. They don't trust him, and they shouldn't.
No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. He was Bill Maher was talking to Coons. Is he a representative or a senator? I can't remember.
I can't remember.
Either way,
either.
I don't follow him. He says, Coons says, we frankly shouldn't let up on the urgency of promoting the vaccination so that we can enjoy reopening in our society. Bill Maher, he pushes back and says, he pushes back on the death of Colin Powell. It's like, what are you talking about? He's like, this guy, they said that he died from complications from COVID, but he had cancer. He
Active
had all of
cancer.
These other underlying conditions.
Sure.
He said, we have to get back to life. You look at the sporting events. All three sports are playing right now. Nobody seems to be having super spreader events. Talking about basketball, seeing indoor sports is great. It was fun having a pandemic, but, bye-bye.
Yeah.
This is done.
Yeah.
This needs to be done.
It should
and
be
I
done.
hope more people on the left will start to admit it like he will, because it's got to be hard to be to go against the left when you're a part of the left.
It is. I mean,
And,
typically
but
they
more-
are very
the more-
unified.
But the more that break ranks, I think the more is, the better it is for the country, and I think it's starting to happen.
Yeah, we just read something on Facebook from one of our relatives, and he said, I just got my booster shot, no side effects. He falls on the liberal side of the spectrum, and so do his friends, of course. And one of his friends said, well, I wish I could say the same. We got it. I think he meant himself and his wife. And he said, we were sick as dogs. We felt we were being attacked like somebody from Trump was attacking us, right? So he had to throw that in there.
Sure.
But he got very sick over the booster. And I'm just I am anti-mandate of anything. Of anything, right? Including the IRS, which we didn't even touch topics.
Oh gosh,
on that.
Could you imagine? That's another hour.
Yeah, it's just incredible.
Have you ever spent over $600 at one time?
More times than I can probably count.
Oh man,
right? Frankly, the first time they can look at it is every time I pay my taxes.
That's right.
Right? There's thousands of dollars that I withdraw at one time just to pay my taxes. Now, I understand that it's no longer $600. I think it stands at $10,000.
Okay.
Which is still crazy. Right? It's still nuts to be at that. The IRS has no business looking at my checking or savings account any more than they do anybody else's.
Right.
How we spend our money is ours.
That's our business.
And it's like Musk said the other day. He said they're going to start with billionaires, but don't think they're going to come down and get you, because they will. They want to hire 80,000 new IRS agents. 80,000.
When the IRS becomes the most efficient government organization, that's bad news.
Joe?
If we're hiring them so that they could be the most efficient, that's bad news for the American people.
It's very bad news, because if there is a part of the federal government that desperately needs to be destroyed, removed, it's the IRS. Because if you ask any citizen of any political spectrum, what part of the government, if you fear any part of the government, what part of the government do you fear the most? The answer has got to be the IRS questioning my earnings, my tax reports, or anything along those lines. When they come in to audit a small business, that a small business that doesn't have the money to afford the big-time lawyers, and they get audited and they're found to owe $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. You know what the average small business does? They pay it. Even if it's wrong.
Sure.
Even they pay it because they know to hire the attorney would cost more money, and they want to get rid of the auditor.
Sure.
And frankly, having spoken to those that know about auditors that work for the IRS, if you acquiesce and simply pay the money that he says you owe, he closes up or she closes up their satchel. They walk away and they don't come back.
That's right.
They don't come back.
I mean, they are the organization that has the ability to bury you.
They do. They have the ability to bury you, your business, and send you to jail.
Right.
They have the ability to take your home, to take your checking account, your savings account, and your retirement account. Sure. They can do it all. How? All they got to do is put a little pressure on. You're done for.
That's right.
It's the only part of the American legal system where you are guilty until proven innocent is when the IRS comes after you.
And of course, they have the unlimited resources to go after
Money's
you.
no object.
No object.
Money's no object. And they want to strengthen that entity. They're nuts. They're nuts. They need to get rid of it. And that's all I have to say on that. Joe, our hour and 30 minutes is up.
It's fast, isn't it?
It's very fast. And I don't know if we certainly didn't get to all the topics that we needed to talk about. I don't know that we got deep enough to any of the topics that we should have talked about, but we hope that you found this entertaining, and at least that we threw some stuff out there at you where you will think about some of the things we talked about. And if you're on the fence on any of these issues, that you would do enough digging into them that you would wind up on one side or the other.
That's right. Yeah.
All right? To God be the glory. Great things he has done, Joe.
Amen.
All right? God bless you.
God bless. Take care.
Yep, you too, Joe.